The selection committee does not care what your conference's record is head-to-head against another conference. They don't care what your conference's overall rating is compared to other conferences. They don't care. Those who are confused on Selection Sunday are those who insist on emphasizing the accomplishments of a given league compared to another league. I have been on more than a dozen NCAA tournament mock selection committees. I can promise you, never, not occasionally, not once in a while, never, when you're analyzing the final at-large candidates, never does it come up what their conference did. What does come up is what they did, what that team near the bubble did do or did not do. And here's the bottom line if you don't believe me. Yes, the Big 12 was considered by most the number one conference in America this year. Yes, the Big 12 got 8 bids this season, in part reflecting how good they are, but mostly reflecting the 8 individual resumes that got into the big dance. But underlining and emphasizing my main point, the Big East was considered deservedly one of the best leagues in America this year. You know what the Big East got? 3 bids. So for those complaining that the ACC got only 5 bids, remember, we are living in a conspiracy theory world, and there are just way too many Americans whose first explanation for everything is a conspiracy theory. No, it's not a conspiracy theory. They're not against the ACC. They're not against the Big East. What they did was they looked at UConn, Big East member. They had a dazzling resume. Guess what? That resume was respected with a number 1 seed. Then they looked at Marquette. Dazzling resume. Guess what? Shaka Smart's team was rewarded with a 2 seed. Then they looked at Creighton, the 3rd best team in the Big East. Guess what? No conspiracy. Creighton had a great track record. They were rewarded with a 3 seed. A 1 seed, a 2 seed, a 3 seed from the Big East. That's a great league, right? But then what happened? There was no conversation about the Big East being one of the 2 best leagues in America. That conversation is over. It's just for fun and talking heads during the regular season, and fans as well. Nothing wrong with conference versus conference comparisons. But when you bring up conference versus conference comparisons in the Selection Sunday context, you are only confusing yourself and your friends. After those first 3 Big East teams all got very high seeds, they looked at St. John's resume. They looked at Seton Hall's resume. They looked at Providence's resume. And you know what they decided? Those next 3 teams in the Big East, the almighty Big East, weren't quite good enough when their individual resumes were evaluated. The bottom line is none of those 3 Big East teams, while good teams, had enough high caliber wins to get them the benefit of the doubt in the final crunch for the final at-large slots. Same thing happened to Pitt and Wake Forest in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's not a conspiracy. If you will simply look at how many really good wins does a team have, how many losses do they have, and where did those wins take place? If you wanted to boil it down to 3 things, those would be the 3. You will understand 99% of what happens on Selection Sunday if you will just cling to those 3 things and wash out of your brain, for example, the ACC's head-to-head record against the Big 12. It's a fun number because it reflects well on the ACC. It has absolutely, positively 0 to do with the assessment of Pitt's resume or Wake Forest's resume.